Hey y'all, I really didn't mean to do it that way, but since I came in this way, I just want to say hello before we go to the intro. Y'all know when I'm doing this by myself, it is hilarious. So anyway, how y'all doing? I see y'all rolling up in here. Robert Holman, you were in here for a moment. But hey, hold on. We'll be right back.
Emotion.
I guess it was supposed to be done that way. How about that? Yeah, I'm just so excited about today and forgot that I didn't have the cover up. And hey, it is what it is, right? But I actually liked it as well to come in and say, hey, real quick before I went to the intro. That's how it used to be done. So Robert Holman, again, grand rising to you. Yes, we're going to be praying for those in the path of Hurricane Milton, excuse me. Adrian, good morning to you. Sardinia, good morning to you. Marion Jackson, good morning to you. I'm diving into your pastor's book this week. And then Rosanna Bivens, good morning to you as well. Y'all, we have a great show. So the first thing I'm going to ask all of you to do, can you hit that thumbs up button? Can you hit that alert button? Can you share? Can you use another device to let people know, hey, we're here on News in Motion. We think you ought to come and check it out. We have with us one of our regular contributors, Pastor Derek Holmes, is going to be talking about Power the Polls. Listen, people. It's so exciting. All the work that's going forth and just to see people out there doing what they do in voting. I'll talk about my voting. I voted yesterday. I'll talk about my voting before I bring on Pastor Holmes. But before we do anything, and again, thank you, Robert Holman, for putting this out here. Y'all, prayers for the people in the path of Hurricane Milton, which has once again strengthened to a Category 5 hurricane. Y'all, Category 5 hurricane. I've been in 2 minor ones before. Well, I guess Francis wasn't really minor, but it's no joke. So I can't even imagine what a Category 5 is going to do. Here's the update from the National Weather Center. Hurricane Milton is expected to bring extremely life-threatening conditions as it nears landfall today along the western coast of Florida, where millions are currently scrambling, trying to evacuate. And this comes less than 2 weeks since Hurricane Helene's catastrophic devastation. We know we have friends there in the Tampa area. One of our, a gentleman and his wife who used to attend our church here in Columbus, Ohio, they're looking for gas. So that is happening. So on one hand, you hear the governor saying, oh, we have plenty. But on the other hand, there's people on the ground saying they can't find any. So pray, they're trying to get out of there. And just to let you know, this couple, his name is Ferris. Ferris was sharing with us that, and he did a beautiful post on his page on Facebook. And he was talking about how people say, you just need to leave. He said, it's not that kind of thing. He said, it's not like those of us here, in Central Ohio, Michigan, Chicago, East Coast, like Baltimore, DC and so forth, will say, oh, there's a blizzard coming or there's a snowstorm coming. That's different than a hurricane. And he said, so even to just start getting in the road going, goes, where are we going to? Are we sure that's the path that's going to go? It can change in an instant. They could be going somewhere where the hurricane may shift and go that direction. He said, so it's not that type of thing that you can really do things. He said, yes, they plan things out, but at the same time, it's almost like a wait and see. And he explained it beautifully on his page. And when I spoke with him yesterday, just to check on him, he was saying, that's the one thing that those who live in Florida get tired of, because he said, it's not that easy. He said, it's not that easy just to go. So they're going to hunker down unless there's some trucks that are coming in. if Ron DeSantis would just stop playing around, he would take the calls from President Biden, but not from Vice President Kamala Harris. I see you, Judy, Neal, Dr. Antoinette. What's up, Latrice Jones? He'll take those calls, but not from Vice President Kamala Harris, which is really just ridiculous. That's petty. It's politics over people. This isn't the time for politics. Just like I was sharing with you all yesterday, it makes no sense that the 6 representatives in Florida, Matt Gaetz included, refused to give funding for FEMA because they said they'll do it after the election. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, said the same thing. We're not going to do this. We'll wait till after the election. You're playing with people's lives. This is politics, y'all. This is politics. So remember this when you go to the polls. So, y'all, it's centered about 440 miles southwest of Tampa. The storm again regained its status of Category 5 on yesterday. This is all according to the National Hurricane Center. The system moved east-northwest at 10 miles per hour late yesterday with a maximum sustained winds of 165 miles per hour. The National Hurricane Center specialist John Kanalowski warned that it has a potential, although they expect that it will weaken once it arrives to landfall. He's saying, but because of the eye and the strength of it, I see you, Kim Edmondson, because of the eye and the strength of it, he said, although it could weaken down to a 4 or 3, he said this is still considered the most destructive hurricane on record for West Central Florida. I don't know if y'all have seen the and now the news cycles are picking it up. The meteorologist who talked about this hurricane and he broke down. He was like, and he said it's global warming. He said this is climate change, and he just broke. This old man was in tears, and they're trying to communicate like we cannot ignore the truth or the facts. So there's that. So y'all, prayers for people in the path of Hurricane Milton. I believe in the power of prayer, that we can pray that it just goes on back out there and just goes away. In addition to that, with all of that going on, let me give y'all the numbers also. If you know anybody in the pathway, this is the information that the Biden administration is putting out to apply for FEMA assistance. There's that link there. If you don't have access to a computer and they realize that, here's a phone number that people can call. And if you all will grab these things and put them out there so that people can grab and share on your Facebook page, your social media pages, that would be great. That number is 1-800-621-3362. And again, the link right there is www. And I don't have my glasses, y'all. disasterassistance.gov. And then you can also, if you have the capability of downloading the app, download the FEMA app. So y'all hear a News in Motion. We're going to do what we can to get this information out. I believe we have it up on our Facebook page, the News in Motion Facebook page. I know it's on my page, the Gail Dudley page. All you have to do is follow that. So again, download the app, make this phone call. And if you know anyone who needs assistance, and you may have to step in to help them out, keep these numbers as well, 1-800-621-3362, or the website, apply for this assistance. That's the disasterassistance.gov. So that's that information. So in other news, what's up? Pastor Alex Williams, it's so good to see you. What's up? Dr. Antoinette said every last one of them should be voted out. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. Yes, Pastor Alex Williams, you're in that line too. Can you just, have you left? Are you still there? What are you doing? Can you fill us in? So glad to see you pop on here. Give us any updates. Let us know how we can be praying for you. And let us know if you need anything. I know you have a tribe. I know you have a community. But if there's anything that this community, because we're your community too, News in Motion can do for you and Laura and your family, please let us know. We want to be here to help you all. All right, y'all. So as news is coming out, I don't know. I'm like, well, which one is the October surprise? Or are we building up to the main surprise? What's happening? Here's two things I want to share with you. And then we got to get to, what's up, Fred Jones? Then we have to get to Pastor Derek Holmes. Trump held secret phone calls, y'all, with Putin. after leaving office. That's a no-no. That's a no-no. That's a no-no. And this, oh man, this is the Courier newsroom, which is off the chain. They are all the time, fact, point on, and the Lincoln Project. Lincoln Project will uncover anything. You don't want to be their enemies. Anyway, Trump had been in contact with Russian dictator as he was pursuing Republicans to block military aid to Ukraine, reports in the New York Times. Now, former President Donald J. Trump has secretly spoken with President Putin of Russia as many as 7 times since leaving office, even as he was pursuing the Republicans to block military aid. So even when the Ukrainian fight happened, that war broke out, he was in there trying to block military aid. Who does that? I just hope people will believe these things and listen. The book titled War and scheduled to be published next week describes a scene in early 2024 at Mar-a-Lago, Mr. Trump's estate in Florida, when the former president ordered an aide out of his office so he could conduct a phone call with Mr. Putin. Look. I like that those non-disclosure agreements didn't hold water. The unidentified aide said the two may have spoken a half dozen times as well since he left office. The book also reports that Mr. Trump, while still in office in early during COVID, when we didn't have it, y'all, when we didn't have anything, y'all, he gave Mr. Putin COVID test before we got him. What? Yes, this is all rolling out. Yeah. And then Putin, as this aide said in a quote, Putin said to Trump, "I don't want you to tell anybody because people will get mad at you, not me." What is happening? They're besties, I guess. They're besties. So, y'all, this disclosure raises new questions about Mr. Trump's relationship with Mr. Putin just weeks before the election. More that is unfolding. If you Google it, honey, you can see the whole thing. I can't wait till the book comes out because I'm going to be reading it. Also in the news, is this another October surprise? Washington Post reports in September 2018 as allegations of sexual misconduct against Justice Brett Kavanaugh threatened his confirmation to the Supreme Court. President Donald Trump vowed that the FBI would have free reign and to vet the claims. Trump said the FBI was talking to everybody. Well, the FBI has since come out and said none of that's true. He didn't. He pretty much had us in lock and barrel. We couldn't ask anybody. Mr. Kavanaugh needs to be removed from the bench, okay? What's up, Jeff Payne? Good to see you. I see you, Dr. Annette. Y'all rolling bigger today. So the president's comments came as a surprise to the FBI. And they were like, that's not what we were ordered to do. We were ordered that we had very limited inquiry. That's all we could do was ask a couple of questions. The report, which was produced by Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat of Rhode Island, a Judiciary Committee member and leading critic of Kavanaugh confirmation, and provided to the Washington Post ahead of a public release on Tuesday. So they did this way ahead that it came out, provide additional evidence of the tight control that was exercised by Trump himself. Yes. So y'all, they're saying that they now demand a complete, comprehensive, and independent investigation be conducted by the Department of Justice. What? Y'all, this is all happening. So I'm going to put that link in the Friday rundown so you can follow along with it. But there's like surprise after surprise after surprise after surprise after surprise. So Marion says, as I said, the former guy will be the first former to go to prison. He will not win this election. Listen. All right, y'all, as I prepare to bring on Pastor Holmes to talk about Power the Polls, I want to just share something with you. Yesterday, remember I said I didn't have anyone to go with to the polls, and I wanted to vote the first day. Well, Davia then texted me, and she says, hey, are we going today? She hadn't forgotten. I said, girl, let's go. It's October the 8th. I look at the number 8, New Beginnings. That's the biblical reference there. So we went. So we're in Delaware County. So it's not the Franklin County stuff, okay? We're in Delaware County. So we drove. I'm driving. We go to turn in. I'm like, David, look at all these cars. She goes, oh, girl, that can't be for voting. I said, I don't know. So we parked and it was packed. I was like, what is going on here? Which was really, really good. It was excellent. It was excellent. We were the only people who looked like us. But we go in there and I literally had to wait to be called to the next thing. This is the first day. Yesterday was the first day of early voting here in Ohio. Get my ballot, get my sticker. The guy connects me and everything. I vote. It was so wonderful to vote the way I was voting on yesterday. I waited for the printout and I was reading everything. I was reviewing it. I was checking everything. I made sure to vote yes on issue 1 in Ohio. I was going through all of those things and I get it. And I'm reading the printout now because I read it on the electronic thing, but then I'm reading the printout and something didn't look right. I'm like, And then the guy said, can I help you? I said, I'm just trying to see something. He said, that line goes under. And I said, okay. And I was able to see that it did. And then he said, I'll show you another one if somebody doesn't mind, because you really couldn't see the name. And it did go under. I said, okay, I'm cool with that. So entered it in, had my sticker on. But y'all, it was steady flow of traffic. And I was so, so excited about that. So y'all, here's just a couple of voter registration deadlines. Many of them have already come. They was Monday and Tuesday. Let me see if I can find any. That's Delaware, October the 12th. Connecticut, October the 18th. These are registration deadlines. California, October 21st. Trying to see any more. Iowa, October 21st. Kansas, October 15th. I'm trying to see if there's any more. Idaho, you're October the 11th. Arizona, you're today. You can start early voting today, which means your deadline was actually yesterday. Maryland, October 15th. And let me know if anybody's on here that I have these wrong, but I'm trying to find them. Missouri, your last day to register to vote is today, which is October the 9th. And if y'all know anybody in these states, let them know. New Jersey, October the 15th. New York, October 26th. Oklahoma, October the 11th. Oregon, October the 15th. These are the last days to register to vote. I think I covered all of them. Oh, no, South Carolina, October the 14th. I think we're good. Oh, West Virginia, October 15th. So, y'all, those are your last day you can register to vote, not unless you are in a state where you can actually vote and register on the same day. All right, with that, I'm not going to play around. Let's bring in our regular contributor, Pastor Derek Holmes from the Union Grove Baptist Church. Good morning to you.
Good morning, peace. How's it going?
Everything's good. Can you believe what's happening? That's at least now 4 October surprises in just 2 weeks.
Yeah, listen, at this point, I'm not surprised. I got to tell you, listen, people gonna people whenever people get a chance, and stupid gonna be stupid whenever stupid get an opportunity. I just at that point, like, I'm not shocked. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow. Well, I want to jump in because I want to leave you as much time as we possibly can. But can we first start, because this whole segment today is about Power the Polls. So can we first start with, what is Power the Polls? Can you give us some information on what that is, so that we can be ready to communicate, especially with our young people?
Yeah. First, again, always a pleasure to be able to share on this medium. And to everybody in the chat, peace and what's good. Just good to be able to share space with you all. When we're talking about power to the polls, it's really an assertion in the best sense of what it means to be the demos, for us to operate in a transformative way democratically. And I think in order to do that, we have to be clear about some things, particularly as it relates to the current election that we're dealing with. This general election is not just two people and trying to figure out where you stand in terms of their ideological political view. But it's really idea of imperial presidency against democratic presidency. And I think we should just understand that as some truths. I think sometimes, as people of good nature, people who genuinely care about things that are decent, it's real easy to not want to make enemies And we have to be very clear and honest about the fact that being on the right side of a thing means that sometimes you're going to have enemies, and that's okay. It's okay to consider, and I feel like it today. You need to know I feel like it. It is okay to consider the Republican nominee as an enemy of democracy given that platform, right? It's perfectly fine to say you're not any less saved, you're not being mean-spirited, but when you look at the rhetoric at this point, when you look at the record, when you look at Project 2025, when you look at what he's connected to, when you look at secret calls to a dictator that's an enemy of the country that we live in, right? When we look at all of this, in my mind, it's all right to say that this person is an enemy of the direction of the country. And on top of that, on top of all of that, the notion that he wants to operate with complete impunity and not be checked for anything. Let's be very clear that the person running for the highest office in the land on the Republican side of the ticket is a convicted felon. He has 34 felonies as we speak right now, right?
Yeah.
I know people who can't get a job with one. He's trying to get one with 34, right? That's imperialism. The founders of this country are connected to not wanting to be run by a king who can operate unchecked.
Yeah.
Literally, his function is to push the country back to that. Whereas on the other end of the ticket, right, if we're calling people on record and calling people, all of the rhetoric is around what we can do. Yes, we can, right? And caring about all these people on these levels and existing in the tension of the American democratic project. So when you talk about power to the polls, it's really a preservation of democracy and us asserting ourselves so that way this doesn't happen to us, but we get to name what's in the best interest of the nation and our community.
You know, I'm glad you raised that. And first of all, thank you. I was sharing, I believe, last week here on News in Motion that we cannot be a single issue voter this time around.
Sure.
And I understand people's, what they're just, I can't do this because the Bible says this. I get it. At the same time, the Bible says do not lie. The same time, the Bible says to have but one wife. The same time, the Bible says we can love thy neighbor as thyself. And so I tell people, we can't be a single issue voter this year. We have to look at what else is on the ballot. Our lives are on the ballot. Democracy is on the ballot. That's what's on the ballot. I shared with them, I don't know if you and I talked about this or not, but real quick, and for those who may have missed it, I shared last week that I spoke with a couple about this very thing. And they were like, we just don't understand how you fall that way. I said, okay, let's take that issue off the table. Who would you vote for? They said, oh, well, clearly her. Well, let's put the issue back on, but let's look at some things. Now, how are you going to respond to this? And after our conversation, they were like, wow. I said, there's so much more than one issue this time around. I said, there's so much more. And I said, and yes, there's not one president who's going to go into office and check every box that we have. That's not going to happen. But we have to think about democracy and what's right. And so far, as you said, 34 felons, are we serious right now? So he's 34, he's a convicted felon 34 times. So what about the people who say, and you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, especially these young millennials, they're saying, I don't think my vote matters, so I'm just not going to vote. What do you say to them?
Well, the vote absolutely matters because until we overthrow the government and the new system, they're collecting votes, and whatever side has the most votes, that ends up being the commander in chief of the richest, most powerful nation in the world. Like, I think we have to be honest and spend more time speaking to the disenfranchisement and frustration at the base of that, right? Your vote didn't matter, then there wouldn't be that much effort to keep you from voting. There wouldn't be that much effort, right, and propaganda on your vote not mattering. When a young person says that, when a millennial says that, when a Gen Z, older Gen Z says that, what they're really talking to is their frustration with the system. And so that's always an opportunity to drill down and have a deeper conversation. So I get it, you're frustrated by the system. And by the way, I want to hold space for the fact that the system is not broken. It does what it's intended to do. And so our efforts as those on the side of righteousness is that we should be dismantling system. But part of the way that happens is you can't throw rocks at it, right, and just complain about it because that'll change. There's a saying, you can't have good barbecue without getting smoke on your clothes. Listen, there has to be some involvement and some closeness to things. So if you're really frustrated about it, you really feel a way about it, you're really irritated, aggravated, agitated by it, then what you actually do is you exercise your vote. And by the way, I don't want to just isolate it to a vote, because there's also involvement, right? Because I could imagine if you really feel a way about it, put yourself in a position where you can be part of the change to make it better. So vote and then do the work so that way you can be someone that we vote for, right? Because change doesn't happen from the top down, it happens from the bottom up. So when I hear those, I'm always pointing to know your vote absolutely matters. Your vote matters. That's why whole states have had instances where they've thrown votes out. Your vote matters. That's why where I live, almost 200,000 voter registrations got purged by the Secretary of State, the majority of which were Black votes, right? So of course it matters, but I think the opportunity is to really speak to the disenfranchisement. And that's what oppression does. Oppression makes you feel like you don't have any power. So the liberatory function, right, is to say, no, it does matter to evoke the best of what happened in Selma and in Montgomery. Well, while those people were disenfranchised, no, this matters, and this is how we're going to exercise change.
Yeah. Now, you haven't given us a hashtag. Now, you can't get out of there.
I've got, listen, I am, wait, I have one. I have one. Listen,
a hashtag to put out here.
I got you. Listen, when you talk about, let's go back for a minute. When we talk about imperial presidency, listen, y'all, we should not be surprised by any of this. We shouldn't be surprised that he has private, loving phone conversations with Putin. We shouldn't be surprised that Kavanaugh's out here wilding. We shouldn't be surprised when the right does what the right does. We shouldn't be surprised when we shouldn't be surprised by any of this. Hashtag we are not surprised. Listen, some stuff just is what it is. It's all right. We don't have to pretend. We don't have to put sugar on it. We don't have to downplay it. We don't have to diminish it. No, reckless is reckless. No, evil is evil. No, wrong is wrong. Hashtag we are not surprised. Listen, and here's the thing. If there's anything that we can say with no equivocation, this fool has been on that from the moment he got in front of a camera. Listen, from the moment he came down that escalator and rented people to announce that he was running for the presidency, this has been a travesty and a shamockery all put together. It has been a joke, and we are allowed to be honest about that. There is something real democratic about saying that we know who you are. For those of us from the East Coast, we have seen this literally since the 60s. His dad is a slumlord. Anybody from New York City is not surprised by anything that Donald Trump does. We are not surprised. He is reckless. Anything connected to him is reckless. His necktie is reckless. Listen, you see how long it is? It's ridiculous. Listen, it is nonstop foolery, and we should just be clear, we are not surprised. And the real reason why that's important is because it is an election season. We are going to vote, and either you are going to vote for righteousness or you are going to vote for recklessness. Be clear. That last time was a one-off, and 88% of a certain demographic of America went and voted for recklessness. I bet we don't. Hashtag we are not surprised, and we are either voting for righteousness or recklessness. Be clear. The other person, the person on the left side of the aisle, has no felony. Not one. And that brings me around to the thing I want to address, because it's really important what you said. We should be very clear that you are not voting for your pastor. You are not voting for the Pope. You are voting for who is going to do the best job navigating the direction of the country in the name of democracy. We should just be very, very clear about what we're voting for, right? And by the way, that's actually what democracy is. You're not voting against the thing, but you're voting for it. The very conversation that we're having right now, we won't be able to have with another Trump presidency. That is a fact. You've been doing an excellent job navigating Project 2025 and all of the recklessness and ridiculousness and foolery that's in that. By the way, here's something that most people don't realize. That's nothing new. The Heritage Foundation and all of that has been on that since the Reagan administration. We should be very clear. These tricks aren't new. They just dress it up and put a new name on it. So, and by the way, for those who lived through that time period and know about Reaganomics and know what a lot of our communities looked like in the 80s, early part of the 90s, that's directly connected to the things behind Project 2025. Guess whose name is listed 900 some odd times in that missive? Captain Wreck over here, Donald Trump. Like, we should just be honest. We are not surprised by any of this. And the opportunity is to be very clear. We're either voting for recklessness or we're voting for righteousness. She's not perfect. And that's okay. Because the Democratic project is then we show up with our interest. But we can't even have the conversation with the other person in office. And that's how we should be thinking about it.
Yeah. Oh, you brought it. Thank you.
I had one on deck. You hear me? Like, listen, we are not surprised by this foolishness. This is foolishness. This is foolishness.
So then how do we, okay, and you're right, you just called the roll. Absolutely 1,000. What can we do? We can't just keep pounding them on the head with, what we believe and giving them clarity and the research and everything. How do we talk? I want you to specifically talk to the Black men and young Black males who really believe that he sent them a check. He didn't. They should never allow a president's signature on them checks again, because the power of the purse belongs to Congress. It should have been the speaker's name on there or the treasurer's name on there, not Donald J. Trump on that stimulus check. But people are so confused, even when it comes to FEMA. It's like the president has gone to Speaker Mike Johnson saying, can you convene Congress so we can get more funding? He said no, not till after the election, because it's a political game here. This is Civics 101. Congress has the power of the purse, not the president. There's checks and balances for a reason. So, but you have people saying, well, Donald Trump gave me a check. No, he did not give you a check. He doesn't have any money. Or they're saying things like, the Biden administration, they're only giving these people $750. That's not the whole story. They gave $100 million just to one county out of North Carolina, and those are steps to take place. You just can't come in with a wrecking ball and clean up Hurricane Helene. You're not going to be able to do that with Hurricane Milton. There are steps involved, but there's people saying only Donald Trump helped us. Are you crazy? Can you please speak to that in the language that people can receive it?
So let's be clear. I said it to be provocative, but I meant it. We were talking just a second ago about being able to identify enemies. The reason why that's important, my grandmother used to say that a gift from an enemy is a curse, right? So we have to be clear. Even if you want to, the reason why, the metaphor being that someone will give you something as an enemy, but what ends up happening is the curse lasts longer than the immediate presence of the quote unquote gift that an enemy gave you, right? We should be very clear to point one. It certainly wasn't Donald Trump. That paints a certain picture of Donald Trump that's incongruent to his function, very much specific to the Black community. And this rhetoric, I completely reject. The idea that this beneficent president gave Black America these checks, that's just ridiculous. And anybody who has any understanding of how this works or what's connected to Congress or how that actually happens knows that not only is that not true, but it also isn't congruent to the realities of how this country functions as it relates to Black people, right? So we should just level the playing field with that. But I think what's even deeper, to your point, we should have some erstwhile and conversation again about the desperation at the base of that. If you really believe that Donald Trump gave you a check, what did that check actually do? We're on the tail end of it now, right? And we should own that had nothing to do with helping people. That had everything to do with helping an economy. Let's just do that. See, because people want to be real until it's time to be real. No, when you have these conversations about a stimulus check, that had nothing to do with people, right? That had everything to do with stimulating an economy that wasn't moving, right? We should be
And
very
we
clear.
did exactly what they wanted us to do. We went and spent it on the
Spent it
Georgians and this
and
and that
spent
and the
it on
other.
stuff, right? Exactly, and threw it right back into the empire to that's literally the reason why it's called a stimulus check. It wasn't to stimulate us; it was to stimulate the economy, right? So we should be very clear about what that was. I agree with what Alex said, right? That some people are looking for an excuse, and here's where we get to have the hard conversation. What's represented in this current election is the reality of some of us dealing with late sex that's embedded into our function. So the idea that a woman running for office, in particular a Black woman, goes against the order, the social order that we've been socialized under. White man, white woman, Black man, Black woman. So someone who the social order says is down here is now running for the highest office in the land. So what is happening is people now have to reconcile what they've been socialized under and dismiss all of the stereotypes that comes with an assertive, intelligent, confident Black woman. So now all the questions that come, oh, I guarantee that you've heard somebody say, oh, well, I don't know if we should have a woman in that office. I don't know if she should do X, Y, and Z, all these things to dismiss the fact that she's already in the White House, right? In fact, she's just applying for the job that she would have if she would just stay in office, right? So we should be very clear about that. Right. This isn't her first time running for the presidency. So she is obviously more qualified than the person that she's running against. And by the way, both sides of the aisle know that. So in real life, what does that mean? That means that there's a side of the aisle that is running using the politics of fear and trying to co-opt frustration and disenfranchisement in order to have someone in position that at least has intersection with their interest. We can't participate in any of that. The notion that Donald Trump gave anybody a check is insane, especially because when all these cases were coming down, Donald Trump was looking for money. I don't know if we spent enough time talking about that, but when all that happened, he was out here looking for money. This man was out here dead broke. You know, I know y'all don't know nothing about it, but listen, when you go to court, what you're really trying to do is trying to get your money together, especially if you know it was wrong. And Donald Trump is on the record trying to find cash because he knows that these cases were coming. So to say that that guy somehow gave you money to be okay is insane. That's asinine, asa 10, asa 11, and asa 12. That's crazy, right? Donald Trump didn't give anybody a check. Right. The truth is that the government passed out checks to stimulate the economy. Donald Trump does not care about people that much. And we should be very clear about that because that's what's on the ballot right now. I hope I answered your question because that really incenses me on so many levels.
No, you did. But let's go. Let's call it roll. Gold tennis shoes. Now $100,000 timepiece. What else? There was the artwork. I mean, he sold a lot.
Yes, the artwork. He had the shoes. He had the stupid, ridiculous watch. He got these insanely long neckties that you could buy at Macy's. Here you go. In my hood, that's called the hustle man. The guy who always has something for you to buy that he just creates just so you can have a couple more dollars. And that's the guy that gave you a check so that way you could be okay. And again, and let's critically, what did those stimulus checks really do for our community? What business started with as a result of someone's stimulus check, right? What actually happened of $2,000? That's not even no money.
Yeah.
And the truth is, let's have an honest conversation here on News in Motion. And the truth is, for most people, that money was gone as soon as it got to us.
Yep. Oh, it was gone. It was gone. It was gone. And listen, I want to go because I'm seeing the trading cards, the gold coins. We also had the order. We also have the ornaments. We have all these things. Whatever. But here's something when we're talking about mindset, and then we'll be wrapping this up, y'all. And yes, he'll be doing the inspirational message. But here's the mindset of us. I was in a conversation this weekend. I don't know if you've seen them. I don't know if you all who are tuning in, whether audio, and hello, everyone out in the audio land, and live video. There's these new vitamins out there, Black women vitamins, okay? From a Black doctor out of Detroit, Michigan, a cardiologist. And we were having this conversation, and the person said, I really want to get these, but I don't know. I said, wait a minute, stop. How often do you go into the natural food store or you go to CVS or the Walgreens or the Target and you picking up vitamins? She said, girl, all the time. I said, you don't know about them either. At least we even have a connection that this black woman is the one that developed these vitamins. But it's a mindset. And we had a great conversation because I was like, yeah, why haven't I bought those yet? And I think it's a mindset that we as black people cannot support. That's that connection supporting black people. Because we're thinking, oh, no. Because we've been conditioned that our stuff isn't that great. And I think that's a part of this voting system that we have to get beyond. So what? She's black. Is she? I'm so sick of people saying, but she's not qualified. What do you mean she's not qualified? She's the most qualified candidate. She is literally the most qualified candidate. And why can't we see it? I was listening to John Kasich the other day on MSNBC. And it said, oh, wow, you're like that? Like, he will not. He goes, I came out and supported, I'm sure you've heard it, Joe Biden the last time. I will not be coming out to support her. I don't know how I'm going to vote.
Right.
Why not? It's the craziest thing. And we gotta get to the root of why we cannot support black people. And again, I'm not saying support her because she's a black female. I'm saying support her because what she has put out there makes sense. Now, there may be some things it's like, I can't be 100% with that, but your entire policy platform, okay, that's where I'm rolling with. That's where I'm headed. So can you speak to that? Go ahead. No, jump in.
Yeah, let me be very clear. And I have the benefit of doing so not on my platform that I engage on a regular basis, but on an objective platform. I'm literally saying that for the IRS because of what I'm about to say, right? I am voting for Kamala Harris. And the primary reason why I'm voting for Kamala Harris, right, is because one, I know that she's the most qualified candidate. Here's the other reason I'm voting for Kamala Harris. I'm not saying this from my pulpit. I'm not saying this on behalf of anything that happens at the church that I serve. I'm voting for Kamala Harris, one, because she's the most qualified candidate in the pool, right? Here's the other reason I'm voting for, and we have to be able to do what I'm saying right now. I am voting for Kamala Harris because she is a black woman. We have to get rid of this rhetoric that says that we can't support and protect ours, especially our black women. I have been disappointed by the number of folk who allow their sexism and their other isms to not be in support and defense of this black woman who is running for the highest office in the land. I think that is insane. The truth is, it is black women that have pushed democracy when brothers have not foot the bill. It is black women who have had stand up black men when we were leaned over. And the notion that in this moment we can't support a black woman or even say that we're supporting a black woman without it being questioned is crazy to me. So I want to be unequivocal on News in Motion. I am not saying this as the pastor of my church. I'm not saying it on the platform or pulpit that I carry. I am voting for Kamala Harris. She is by far the most qualified candidate in the pool of candidates. I could make a very strong argument that she's one of the most qualified candidates to be a commander-in-chief that there's been in a really long time. And on top of that, there is no way in the world that as a black man, I am not going to support a black woman who is trying to do what it is that's in the best interest of this nation that I live in. And we have to be able to adjudicate between two. Now, listen, when we get to offices, we can have conversations about prison industrial complex. We should absolutely have conversations about Gaza. We should absolutely have conversations about the middle class, which, by the way, she led with having conversations on at the DNC. She had that conversation in Chicago. It was great to hear, right? We can have all of those conversations, and we absolutely should. We should have conversations about police reform. We should have conversations about how she's going to function, given that she's a prosecutor. Listen, you are not voting for the Pope. You are voting for who is going to have the best opportunity to push this forward. And if we're not protecting her now, then she'll be unprotected when she gets to office.
That's true. Well, look, I went and voted yesterday, like I told you, and that's who I voted for.
Look, talk heavy. Listen, we are unequivocal, and I'll leave it alone from here. But listen, this is the truth. The other factions of communities in our country are unabashed about who it is that they support. And it's not a matter of favoritism. right? When Judaism is represented on the poll, you know that the Jewish community is voting for them. When Latinx communities are represented on the polls, you know who they're voting for. When Somali, Eritrean, Ethiopian folk represent, I live in Columbus, Ohio. It's the second largest population of Eritrean Somali folk in the United States. Listen, when brothers and sisters from that community go ahead and run for office, you know who they're voting for. And it's not, no one even questions whether or not they're qualified or whether or not they should. Listen, I can pat my head and rub my stomach at the same time. Yes, I'm voting for her because she's a Black woman. Yes, I believe that when Black women show up, stuff gets better. Listen, I make up my mind that if a Black woman's in the room, I'm concerned if she's not talking. I want all of that Black woman magic in the White House. Listen, I want to see all of the side. I want to see all of the pregnant pause. I want to see all of the truth telling. Listen, that Black woman sat and said, I'm not changing gun reform because I'm a gun owner. Now, listen, I'm not a gun owner, but that level of truth, I'm comfortable with being in the White House. Listen, if that were a Black man, I would have won him the election. That is a fact.
There's
right?
that.
So let's have an honest conversation about what that means. I am voting for Kamala Harris because she's the most qualified candidate. Listen, I'm voting for Kamala Harris. She's the most qualified candidate. And one of my favorite public intellectuals is running for the office. And I'm not voting for him. That is a fact, right? Look, we should just be clear that I'm voting for the most qualified candidate, but also I am supporting a Black woman because whether she wins or not, we have work to do in the Black community. And I'm not about to be apologetic for who I am because of an election cycle. That's outside of my mind. Does that make sense? Like that's the time I'm on. Like,
it makes all the way sense. It makes all the way sense. So we're going to do the inspirational message note. He's guaranteed the inspirational message. But I see that Davia popped in here too. And one thing I said to her yesterday when we were leaving the Delaware County voting polls, I said, look around the room. I said, even those who are working, they don't look like us. And I said, I don't know how we can even start pushing that. I know we can't do that now, but later. So that people aren't afraid. I'm not saying it's fear. I don't know why they weren't in the room, but it makes a difference when you walk into a room and you see you. I don't know if that makes any sense. And I think that's some of the conversation that I'm hearing from some of the millennials, depending upon what state they're in. Like we walk in a room, we don't see us. And so we feel like we don't belong. We need to change that narrative as well. We belong. We belong. We belong at the table. We belong in buildings. We belong doing what we do. We do belong. We belong. So with that, as I move this, and I just left, you're going to have to just come back one more time before the election. You have to come back one more time before the election.
I love y'all.
Look, you gotta come back. This was great today. Thank you so much for saying yes. But as you go into your inspirational message, what will be that encouraging word to those who are on the fence? On the fence about who they're going to vote for, on the fence if they're going to vote at all, on the fence of believing that their vote does make a difference. So I'm turning it over to you, and then we're out of here, and you all will be back tomorrow with town hall meeting. Don't forget, the moment you stop asking questions, the town hall is over. So take it away, Pastor Holmes.
Well, no, I really appreciate that, and I'm always grateful to be able to share this space, and I love all of this to life, and I really believe in the work that you're doing. And I said this offline, I don't mind saying into a camera, history is going to look back at this moment, is going to look to the persons who are on the right side of the thing. And there are people that are going to be able to say that Gail Dudley was on the right side of a thing. And it's hard to appreciate that kind of in the moment with the heaviness of all of it, all it takes to do this. But just know that history is going to record that there were people who were on the side of justice, people on the side of community, people on the side of Black intelligence, and the name Gail Dudley is going to be mentioned. I just wanted to offer that. For those who are on the fence, those who are trying to figure out who to vote for, listen, all of that confusion is on purpose, that there are things in place to try to decenter the way in which we think about who to vote for, all of the politics that happen in this season. And I completely understand how difficult it can be to really think through who I'm going to vote for, even the pushing against of some things that have become normative in our own function, because now there are differences that are represented in who's on the ballot. And I understand all of that. As a person of morals, as a person of principle, and as a professing and practicing Christian, I want to offer some context to that and hopefully something that makes some sense. And I also want to hold space for the fact that while we're all sharing this, there may be someone here right now that in the busyness of the election cycle might not have made it to Bible study. And if you haven't made it to Bible study, and if you have some time, find yourself in the book of Proverbs in the 4th chapter, in that 27th verse, it says something so profound. It says, do not turn to the right, to the left. Keep your foot from evil. Don't you miss that. The writer of the proverb is giving clear direction on how the way in which the persons of God, children of God, ought function. The first part points to not the right or the left, which absolutely gives some indication around not being partisan. Don't show saying I'm right or I'm left, or I'm red, or I'm blue, or I'm elephant, or I'm donkey, or whatever bifurcation is set up to cause more division in a country where we're all supposed to be unified. The Bible says, don't turn to the right or the left, but watch this, but to keep your foot from evil, that as you are navigating the polls, as you are headed to the ballot, as you are going to lift your voice, as you're going to operate in the thing that people literally die so that way you could have the right to do it, as you're doing so, don't get over-consumed and over-concerned with the right or the left, but actually just keep your foot away from what's evil. So as you're going to the polls, think about what God would be pleased with. Think about what is it that falls in the line of good and what falls in the line of evil. And I don't know how you feel about it, but when I think about women not being able to choose what they do with their bodies, when I think about people losing jobs so that way other people who support agendas can be put in place, when I think about the elimination of African-American history across all levels of education, when I think about getting rid of DEI, when I think about accountability and implication, but no indictment, when I think about all of that to me is evil. And I believe that all of that is evil in the eyes of God. So as we get ready for the polls, I would contend we do what the Bible says. Don't get caught up in the right and the left, but actually show up to the polls and just keep away from evil. I'm not voting for evil. I'm voting for righteousness. I'm voting for justice. I'm voting for diplomacy. I'm voting for equity and equality. I'm voting to continue to have conversations. I am voting to make sure that what is in place is giving God the most glory. And listen, it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it'll never be perfect because humans are involved with it. But what it can be is point in the direction of God. So brothers and sisters, as we go to the polls, and as we go to lift our democratic voices, and as we press in this election cycle, as we close the longest election season in the history of American politics, let's do what the Bible says, not get caught up in the right or the left, but to keep our foot away from evil, to vote in a way that gives God glory. And I believe that when we show up in that, God honors that and will be blessed for it. I pray that you're well. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.
News in motion.